We would like to welcome everybody here to the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board on this December 3rd. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yep. Don Black,
Here.
Pat Dorsey, Raymond Layson, Sonny Aluzo,
Here.
Harron Basie, Marshall Ballard,
Here.
Margie Dunn, here, Ann Shout,
Here.
Marcus Simmons.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to, because of other business, I would like to expedite this meeting by getting the smaller items out of the way, and so we can concentrate on 3C. Do we have a motion for moving the regular meeting agenda accordingly?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, good. First item we will be addressing will be approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Are there any members of the board that would make recommendations to changes in the minute? Having heard none, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes as submitted to us?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. The next item of business I would like to get to is the consideration of the adoption of the schedule for the next coming year. Is there a motion to approve the schedule as written?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment about it.
Okay.
I see that there's a conflict with National Night Out, and as we did last year, I'd like to see if we can move that from the Tuesday to the Thursday. I think it's the first Tuesday of August.
August the 6th.
Is that it? All right, if we can move it, it's right now scheduled to the 4th, you're saying the 6th. Is
That would be the
is that all right with everyone else?
Do we have a motion to adopt the change of the minutes accordingly?
Well, I move that we move the August 4th scheduled meeting to August 6th, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a motion and it is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Jeff, it's my understanding that that's going to change the submission date as well for the board?
It can, but I'd rather just keep the same date. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, not a problem. At this point, we would like to consider item 3A, which is an amendment to the land use ordinance, whereupon there are definitions for vape shops and tobacco shops, and there is also proposed changes to land ordinance, the usage of such shops. Jeff, do you have what's the staff recommendation
Yeah,
on
sure.
this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Aldermen directed the Planning and Zoning Board to make some recommendations to some changes to the land use ordinance, that being to define vape shops and tobacco-related uses, and to allow and to put those uses in the use table as permitted uses. So in your packet, what we've done is we checked some other communities: Asheville, Chapel Hill, Charlotte, Emerald, Fayetteville, Greenville, Jacksonville, Morehead City, and Raleigh, just to see what they were doing. As you can see in the memorandum from Seth Laughlin in the department, a lot of them don't even have any definitions yet, but we did find some. We presented those to you. We are proposing that we had 4 definitions to the land use ordinance. One is a tobacconist, a vape shop, tobacco paraphernalia, and vape liquid or vape juice. All that, and with the goal in mind, is to establish vape shops and create that separation between what a vape shop is and what a tobacco shop is. Furthermore, we were directed to put the vape shop uses once they are defined in the use table. You'll see that on page 4 of the use table in your packet. You'll see use number 2.240 is called tobacco and vape shops. It is proposed to only be an allowed use in the commercial 3, the C3 and the C3H zoning districts. I would ask for one amendment to that, in that we remove the term tobacco and from that 2.240, so it actually just says vape shops, which is the direction given to us from the Board of Aldermen, is that we are to regulate vape shops. So we are recommending approval of these amendments, subject to that one change where I am proposing that I'm requesting that we remove the word tobacco from the use table in 2.240, so it will just read vape shops.
Do members of this board have any questions to the planning department of this change?
No.
Having heard them, do members of the public have any input on this land use ordinance change? Having heard none, it comes back to us. Do I hear a motion to approve such changes to the land use ordinance concerning vape shops and tobacco shops and the definitions thereof? Is there a motion to approve the change?
So moved.
Is it seconded?
Second.
Having heard a motion and seconded,
Just for clarification, that does include the removal of the tobacco term from the use
Yes.
table. Thank you.
Right.
and that is with the modification to 2.240. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So, at this point, we would like to consider the adoption of the draft of the New Bern Redevelopment Commission and Redevelopment Plan for the Boundary approved by the Planning Board, and we would like to have the staff review of that, please, to begin with.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll provide a brief overview. You've been provided a redevelopment plan in your packets for review. I've received some questions from y'all on that. We'll be answering those in the future, but I'm just going to go through a quick rundown of the goals and the policies of the plan. So on May the 8th of 2018 is when the Board of Aldermen created the Redevelopment Commission. On April the 2nd of 2019 is when the boundary of that redevelopment came back before this board to establish the boundary that allowed the commission to go forward and then create a plan for the area within that boundary. So it is called a redevelopment plan. As the commission has gone through and created this plan, redevelopment kind of seems like a kind of worn out term in that it really doesn't capture kind of what the plan is trying to accomplish. So it's more of it's a regeneration. It's more of a plan that to replace, to replenish, to replace loss. When you look at those terms, the word regenerate kind of comes to mind. So you think it's redevelopment, and that just means changing something old into something new. But there's more to redevelopment that this plan tries to capture, and is to bring new and more vigorous life into an area. Some guiding principles of the plan itself, and it's designed to reverse the overall decline of neighborhood character and create a functional transportation network that supports economic growth and public welfare. There's 9 guiding principles within the plan itself. To be proactive in eliminating blight, partnering with existing nonprofits and those in the community that are already doing work, to mitigate the impact of localized flooding, improve the quality and quantity and appearance of the overall housing stock, to increase our enforcement of building and nuisance codes, to create a functional transportation network that enhances health, safety, and economic development with access to amenities and other services, to utilize the city-owned property that's within the redevelopment area to create new development opportunities, to acquire blighted parcels and assembled land for suitable development sites, and to further implement the recommendations of the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative and the Gateway Renaissance Plan. There's 5 goals in the plan itself. I'll go over those individually as well as the policies associated with those goals. First goal, number 1, is to improve the appearance. I'm sorry, I skipped probably, if you're following through in the plan, I skipped probably the first 13 pages of it, which is just data and analysis. Is everyone caught up? I just heard pages flipping, sorry. You can tell me to stop, ask me questions anytime. I talk fast. Yes,
The
sir.
flooding that you referred to here,
Flooding, is that what you said, Sonny?
yeah,
Okay,
is that just because it's low land and it rains? That kind
correct,
of thing?
localized
Okay.
flooding, yeah. Any old regular storm event,
Right.
a couple inch, a half inch, quarter inch will create localized ponding in the vast majority of the community. Yeah. Okay, so goal number 1 falls under is improve the overall appearance of the area itself, and that's dealing with litter, debris, overgrowth, things like that. So we have some policies to address that, and that is to be proactive in the enforcement of minimum and nuisance standards in the area. Right now, and in the community and the city at large, we are not a proactive nuisance abatement city, essentially. We respond to complaints, which there are many of. There's really not much time to be proactive. But the commission felt it necessary to get ahead of the game, to be proactive in seeking out minimum nuisance standards, so trying to abate those. There is a policy that the city has where if a lot is overgrown and it's considered it hasn't been cleared in the past or in the recent past, and if it's just well overgrowth, the city has not enforced those same overgrowth standards on those lots. You'll find those a lot in the Duffyfield community. The preposition here is to change that, and really in overgrowth lots is to go in there and clear them out, but keep a tree cover if there is trees there, or mature trees, or at least trees that are that exceeded 2-inch caliper width, so they're relatively mature, going to have a good chance to live. To allow to be there, but clear out that underbrush and clear out that stuff that really just collects trash and garbage. And obviously to partner with existing nonprofits and citizen groups that are in the community doing the same kind of work. Goal number 2 is improve the appearance and the quality of the housing stock within the redevelopment area. Those speaks for itself. Build new housing, energy efficient housing, and institute a permit and registration program for rental housing. There is no other way to institute a permit and registration program for rental housing in the state of North Carolina unless you are in a certified redevelopment area. So one of the perks of creating this boundary and doing this plan is that you are now allowed to create a permit and registration program for rental housing. Some of the policies associated with that, again, be proactive in enforcing minimum building codes, same as nuisance codes with overgrown lots, being proactive in homes that fail to meet minimum building code. Create that residential property periodic inspection program, and to create a registration program for residential rental properties. Housing policies continue. Selectively purchase and rehabilitate existing residential structures. One of the powers that is granted to the Redevelopment Commission from the state is the ability to purchase and rehab structures. Do so by utilizing CDBG funds. The city has a CDBG program and other funding sources in order to do this, to fund this rehab program. Part of the housing program of the commission is to essentially own and rent out homes in the community, thereby raising the standards of the housing stock and the look and feel of the community. Also, part of that program is to create a kind of a renter's owner program similar to the things that like Habitat does. So to create like a home ownership program for people living in these homes. so they can rent to own, go off, rent homes, be responsible homeowners, understand how it works. Not only provide housing to low to moderate income folk, but also provide that workforce development housing, those citizens that are in the 60 to 120% range of the area median income, so that we're not just focusing on one segment of the population, but kind of dealing with the housing issue with a broader brush. And I'm jumping again, this is policy 4 under gold 4, but to focus these efforts in 3 focus areas. I have some maps of those coming up. It's all part of housing. Explore flood mitigation alternatives. Mr. Aluzo questioned me on earlier. It's again, study the basin that the area is in, and try to get some engineered solutions to capture the rain, and this isn't to deal with hurricanes and natural disasters, but to provide an opportunity to capture that first inch, 2 inches of rain, so it's not flooding in streets and staying on lots for days and weeks on end, where then it can become a nuisance. So try to solve that periodic flooding problem, and first we need an engineer study to figure out what we're dealing with. Goal 4 is to acquire those acquisition of blighted parcels and assemble land for suitable development sites, and to concentrate housing and economic redevelopment in those 3 focus areas. So part of the idea here is to accumulate lots together and create larger development opportunities instead of doing one-offs on smaller lots. And the city owns many of those in the areas. Try to accumulate a critical mass of size and lots, half acre, 3/4 of an acre, and do something with more impactful, which then allows us to deal with some of the flooding issues also. So we talk about focus areas. This is focus area 1. This is the area to the west of Craven Terrace, essentially. So the idea is to focus all our housing efforts and our rehabilitation efforts in these 3 focus areas. So this is the first one. The reason why it's chosen, obviously, is because most of it's out of the 100-year floodplain, and we have the most flexibility in using federal funds and grant funds to purchase, acquire, and rehabilitate homes in these areas. This area, focus area 1. Focus area 2 is on the other side of Craven Terrace. And then focus area 3 is right at the intersection of Chapman and Main and extends up along K Street. And this is more of if you in the timeline when I get to that point, this is further on. The redevelopment of this area is much further down the timeline, just simply because it's more of a mixed use kind of economic development type idea for this area here. Goal number 5 is encourage community health and wellness. Is to partner with Craven County Health Department to locate a federally qualified health center in the redevelopment area. A lot of progress being made on that already. And to support the retention of a comprehensive health and wellness center within the boundaries of the redevelopment area. That language specifically speaks to Stanley White. Well, I had 2 of those in there. The transportation portion of the plan itself. 4 goals associated with that, and that's facilitate economic development, promote health and safety, support cultural heritage, and enhancing access to public transit. Policy number 1 is to extend 3rd Avenue North to its intersection with Main Street. That extension shall not interfere with the rehabilitation or rebuilding of the Stanley White Recreation Facility. And designate Main Street as a one-way running along its west to east access to allow for on-street parking to support economic development activities along Main Street. It's a map. It's 3rd Avenue extension to Main, with Main being one way. Create a greenway trail along the Duffield Canal. That's part of the CNI plan. Support a pedestrian connection from the redevelopment area to the Carolina East Medical Center. Also, another recommendation from CNI. And a form of partnership with CARTS to expand service, and that's in the works. So the map of the Duffield Canal proposed, and then the linkage from the community to Carolina East. A walking trail, pedestrian trail. This is supporting cultural heritage, essentially the Signs of History project. I see Mr. George was here earlier. He's been working on for a few years. Neat project. Essentially create a pedestrian network that connects these programs, essentially informational signs about the history of Duffyfield and those that lived in it, in the community. Create something similar to the Freedom Trail that you would have seen in Boston if you've been up there or anything like that, where there's a defined kind of connection between the points in the pavement or a different type of sidewalk that just allows people to knowingly follow from one sign to the next and understand that they're actually part of a program and not just walking along the street. There are 6 zoning changes that are associated with the redevelopment plan. The first one is to amend the land use ordinance to establish a 1,500 square foot minimum lot size within the redevelopment area for our 6 zoning designations. The 1,500 minimum lot size already exists across the city for attached townhome type development. This would expand that to allow for detached also. And in doing so, creating smaller lots, you need to create smaller setbacks and establish a minimum width for those 1,500 square foot lots. Currently, a little over probably 60% of the redevelopment area allows for mobile homes. The area south of Church Street to Trent, precludes you cannot put mobile homes in that area, but you can north of that. So the recommendation here is to remove the ability to put single wide mobile homes, and double wide actually, in the redevelopment area. Currently, single-family residential is required 2 off-street parking spaces to be provided on the lot. Data from the CNI plan suggested that approximately 50% of those that live in this community have access to 1 or 0 cars. Seems pretty burdensome to have to plan for a car that you don't have. So the recommendation is to amend the land use code within the redevelopment area to provide to require only 1 off-street parking space per residential lot. Again, this goes to what I talked about earlier on Focus Area 3, is to rezone that area to a C4 commercial district, which is more of a neighborhood type commercial district. A good portion of Main Street is currently zoned C4 as it reflected the historic uses that are on Main Street, most of which are not there anymore. But it does allow for commercial development. This recommendation would extend that C4 along Main Street to capture all of that area right there, to be rezoned from R6 to C4, which still allows residential uses, but also allows for mixed uses, mixed income, a lot of flexibility in the redevelopment. And the final recommendation for the zoning changes is actually just create an overlay district, just kind of planner terms, land use terms for how to implement these changes through one overlay district. There's many overlay districts in the city, and this would just be another one that we would create to implement these various changes specific to the redevelopment plan. And there's our website. That's where the plan is right now. If no one wants to write that down, you can just go to the city website, go to Development Services. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will see Redevelopment Commission. You click on that link, and at the bottom is the link to the draft redevelopment plan that anybody can read. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. I'll answer any questions, or if not, we can move on.
Thank you. Before we go on, I want to personally thank members who have contributed to my understanding of Duffyfield and the redevelopment plan. I want to thank Ann Schau, you yourself, Jeff Rigieri, Reggie Jones, Jamala Wallace, and Bernard George. They've all contributed with their outreach to me and each of them, and I do appreciate it. Now, the redevelopment plan before us right now is Sutton Street. There is mentions of a cul-de-sac, but that is being revised, and Sutton Street is going to remain connecting to Main Street. Is that correct?
It's currently in the plan. That's that recommendation. I'll take that back to the commission and we will discuss. I know that the cul-de-sac at Sutton was associated with other improvements in the plan that have been removed because they were incredibly cost prohibitive. So I will bring that back to the commission and we will discuss. It doesn't seem like it's needed at this point in time.
Now, my understanding too is that the planning department is working on a graphic design, a map, if you will, of the proposed route of 3rd Street into Main Street.
Correct.
And that you are developing currently.
Correct.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
Oh, certainly. Okay, I apologize. Presently, the planning department is preparing a map of the proposed 3rd Street extension into Main Street, as well as what the cul-de-sac that's being recommended on Chapman Street. And that is being worked on now and should be ready shortly. And one of the ideas I had that I shared with Jeffrey and some other people is that 3rd Street should be renamed to J.T. Barber Street or Avenue, as he is from that general area, and that would enhance the Heritage Trail for your community. Are there any other questions from this board for the planning department?
You mentioned before that Ann has submitted several questions that you were going to...
Correct.
Is there some way we can put that into the minutes so we'll expect that we'll be able to answer them in the next...
I'll answer the questions. 26 of them. I got them this morning. There's no way I could answer those questions.
No, not now, I know, but you'll send it out.
Yes.
Okay, good enough.
And so that can be put into the record? Should there be a motion to introduce that into the record?
Sure. If you would like to.
At-
That's absolutely fine.
Do
I'm
we-
going to answer the questions.
Like
Well,
a-
let me ask this question. Will someone, a representative from the audience, are they going to come to and speak?
Yes.
Yes, after we have our preliminary discussion, we're going to introduce them to speak. We return to the public. We take the public comments, and then it comes back to the board where we discuss the public comments. And then we will be making one of three motions, either vote to approve it, vote to table it, or vote to disapprove it.
Yeah, because I have a recommendation.
Now-
First, I'd like to commend them. They did an excellent job on this document. And we, as a board, need more time to review this. And I think as a recommendation, we should table this and give them as much time as needed.
Can I advise Marshall Ballard that we are within a 45-day per statute to make our recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. That's nothing that planning department or we have control of. We're working inside a state statute.
That's understandable, but I'm saying, this is the first time I got the document. I need some time. Because they don't put together a document. And like I said, I think that we need to, if they need more time, give them more time.
I don't have an issue with that.
You say that again?
I do not have issue with you on that.
Mhm.
I agree with you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take it to vote?
No, we have to take
We have to
public
go through
comment
the
first.
procedures,
Mhm.
and then we'll vote.
I do want to hear what the public has to say, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're in concurrence. Okay, now, do we have a motion that will take Ann's questions and put it into the minutes of this record? Do I hear a motion? So put forward?
I'll so move.
Do we have a second? We're having a motion, having a second. All those in favor saying aye for hand shouts, questions be put into the minutes of this meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion so carries.
May I clarify my questions, please? They were not meant for you to answer today. If you did, you'd be the wizard. What they were for is to go back to the Redevelopment Commission to answer and give us answers at the next meeting. Or whenever they, whenever we decided the next thing would be.
So the next redevelopment commission meeting is next Wednesday. We'll have all the conversation from this,
good.
this meeting will happen next Wednesday.
Wonderful.
And we have members in the audience now.
Are there any other questions for members of this board for the planning department?
I have one. You talked about making all of the vacant lots that are overgrown be cleaned up, and if not, they would be penalized. When's the city going to start cleaning up its own vacant lots that are overgrown?
Well, I'll give you
They're one of the worst offenders.
the city, every lot that the city owns is on a maintenance schedule. The city owns a lot of lots, and during the growing season, it does appear to.
Well, there's some down
But-
trees that have been
but
down
I
forever.
can, if there's any addresses or areas, I can forward those on to Public Works, and we'll take a look at this. Is-
Okay.
We get those questions a lot, so.
And I have a second question.
Sure.
Have you commissioned the flood study yet?
Not a robust one. I've done, so we did a smaller study of the FEMA-related lots that we own up in the northeast corner. I guess we don't own them. We do own them, actually. They're just have covenants and restrictions on them placed on FEMA. And so we have looked at a smaller area of the community in a smaller flood study. It was not very robust. But it gave us hope that we could actually move forward and do a more detailed study and really get some utility out of it and really solve some of that localized flooding issues. That's what it was good for.
Okay, so you have not commissioned a larger study?
I've
then?
not, no, ma'am. That's what we're working on now, actually.
Hearing no more questions, at this point, I would like to open up to public comments. And although public comments will be limited to 4 minutes per speaker, at this point, we would like to hear anybody from the public who is in favor of us adopting the development plan as so written. If anybody wishes to talk, please approach the podium, give us your name and address, and make sure that you've signed in the register. Thank you. Having heard no proponents of the redevelopment plan, at this point, we would like to hear opponents to the redevelopment plan. And remember that you have to state your name and address clearly and make your comments at the podium. Thank you.
Good evening, how everybody doing? Okay, my name is Barbara Sampson. My address is Aura, 149 Craven Terrace, and I am opposed to it because of the fact that they want to run 3rd Avenue through Main Street, which for one thing is a no-no, because we're going to have kids over there playing, and then when you start running highways through places, then you got to have a certain amount on the side that you got to use. And the way I'm looking at it is you're trying to move Stanley White right on out. And I don't like the way that's looking, because we're not going to sit back and let you eventually take over Stanley White, because you're going to put the highway first, and then the next thing you're going to do, you're going to add something else to it, then you're going to be adding something else, and before it's all over, Stanley White going to be gone anyway. And we sure don't want to make Main Street a one-way street, because for one thing, I don't think they did enough study in the whole community to even come up with a plan to do anything. And they didn't ask us how we feel, because we have a number of people here that feel a lot different than the way the plan is going. And I would like you all to take in consideration to send it back to them and let us have some say so in it. If we have to get our own board or something to talk to one, just pick somebody to talk to them so to let them know what we want too. We want something different. We do not want a highway running through from 3rd Avenue to Main Street, numero uno. We still definitely want standard white. We don't never want to give her that plan. And then we need something to stop the flooding. We need a whole new plan, some engineers to stop the flooding from standard white. Because when you built that place on 3rd Avenue, that caused more flooding than anything, because you built that on up high, so then all the stuff would drain right down to standard white anyway. So please take into consideration, no highway, we want standard white, we don't want Main Street to be a one-way, and we want more study done into that situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bernard White, 1811 Durham Street, New Bern. I have some Duffield community papers I'd like to pass out to each one of y'all. The issue that we're dealing with is an issue that we have dealt with before.
Thank you, Jim.
And as it stands, as the young lady just said, I agree with her 100%. My problem is that this is not the first time they try to run the road through. This is not the second time. This is the third time. There's no good in running a road through a recreational area. If we were going to turn around and say we want to run one through West New Bern, or even Creekside, or any other place, nobody on the board, in their right mind, nobody on the board would want a highway or a road running through a park where their children playing. Now, we have smaller kids that come out there and or either come out of the gym and they'd be outside. Sometimes you just can't see everything, but we don't want anything to happen to any of those children. Years ago, when I first came out with the petition and Mayor Morgan and everybody voted along with me to stop it from happening. And the reason was they wanted to run it right between the two baseball fields. So the statement was, why would you run it running through the baseball field at 45, 50 miles an hour? There could be a highway running through that. I asked them, when would they ever put up stop lights or stop signs? He told me when the DOT person, that's who did it then, he said after we have 2 or 3 serious injuries. Now, we don't want to do it. We don't want to deal with that. At that point in time, James City were having their problems, and that's why they built the overpass. I can't agree on that road coming through. I can't agree on Main Street. It's the same plan. Last time it wanted to come down Main Street, and the DOT person said that will be 35 feet wide. And I'm thinking 35 from the center, 35 to the other side. And Mayor Morgan, when he was our mayor, he's sitting exactly where you're sitting. He read back, he said, hey, I go that way every day. There's no way you can go down that street and widen it without tearing down any houses. There are people that live there that are satisfied with it. And when y'all came up with your plans, how do you come up with plans without including the community? I mean, those people over there, I go by there and ask them, some of them say they heard, but they know nothing about it. There's nothing in the book to say you can do that. Now, books change, but I learned from one of the best, and it wasn't in the book. He told us. So, all I got to say, we disapprove. We don't want the road run through there, and we know if the road run through there, what damage it'll do when we want to have our recreational center rebuilt. So I say, I would like to find another route for that road if possible. And we really don't want Main Street to be a one-way. I don't live on that street, and I think the people that live on that street should have an option. And the people that live in New Bern, citizens that live in New Bern, on whatever name of a street is that's going to be changed, those people that live on that street should have the option to name that street what they want to name it. Now, I don't have any problem with J.T. Barber because J.T. Barber is a mighty school, great school that I graduated from, known from the East Coast all the way to Asheville. Okay, so we put out great people. Thank you.
I agree with you about J.T. Barber. Are there any other members of the audience who would like to speak in opposition to the redevelopment plan? If so, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Bernard George. I live at 1822 Beaufort Street. And I want to first of all commend the Planning Department and the Redevelopment Commission for the plan, for working on the plan and coming up with the plan. It has some very good points in it, has some very good elements that we all recognize, but it also has some shortcomings that we as a community, those people that I've spoken to, seem to be really concerned about. And I also want to thank the community for coming out tonight. It's not often we have a courtroom full of my fellow Duffield residents, but this proves how important this plan is to us individually and as a community. As such, we feel that we have a right, as part of the public hearing process, to have input in the plan, which we feel, on a whole, we've been failed in that case. Is that right? Right. We really want more input in the plan. We want to have a strong partnership. This plan has some beautiful points to it, and it has some weaknesses too. And we feel that if we can work together with the Planning Department, with the Redevelopment Commission, that we're going to come up with a plan that's strong for everybody. And that it won't just come from the top down, but it comes from the bottom up too. And in order for the plan to be vigorous, to be successful, it has to have the buy-in of the grassroots people, the residents. And we're saying that that has not occurred. So I'm sure there's some others who are going to speak. I'd like Ms. Antoinette Boston. Come on forward. She has worked very hard in this process and getting us together. She's been very visionary in working with us to help us understand the plan, because as was said earlier, we're not a planning and zoning board like you all, or redevelopment commission. We're just regular citizens, and it takes time to absorb the plan, to understand exactly how it's going to impact us. And it might be a vision that someone has, but that vision needs to be shared with our community, and that's why we're here tonight. So I'm going to turn the table over to Ms. Antoinette.
Could you, Ms. Antoinette, could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Antoinette Bosky. My address is 1 Eastern Shores Townhouses. And I'm not going to say much, but what I will say is this. I have had conversations with Development Services, who has made it very clear that they want to work with the community. I've had conversations with the community, who's made it very clear that they want to work with Development Services. I understand the positions from both sides very well, but I also am from New Bern, and I understand history. and I understand the lack of trust between the city and this particular community. I understand the defensiveness between the city and this particular community, and I understand how history has played a part in that. And we can't ignore history and what is laid at our feet, even many years later. It's even mentioned in the introduction of the plan. And so I think this is a great opportunity to create that unity. This is a great opportunity to build that trust by being able to allow the community and the city to work together and have that social cohesion to make this something that the community buys into, and not just something that they have input on, but also something that they have a hand in implementing, something that they have a part in putting it in place, so that even after the city's gone, then the community itself can maintain that. When you talk neighborhood revitalization, when you talk community vitality, when you talk about reinvigorating a community, it really is successful when the community residents are empowered to do that work. And I truly believe that based upon who's on the board, on the redevelopment commission, based upon who's in development services, based upon who's in this community, I truly believe that it is completely possible to build that social cohesion and to have the community and this commission work together to reach what their vision is. And that's on both sides, right? That's both sides. It's not just for the commission, it's not just for communities, it's for both to make that decision that, you know what, we know what happened in the past, but what we're gonna do now is start right here in the present. We're gonna look at the facts, and we're gonna work together to create a vision together for what's gonna happen in the future, and one that we both can live with. So, it's just my thoughts.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
It's Hannah Mitchell, 112 Dogwood Lane. I don't have a professional degree and a professional resume, but I do have a lot of interest and love for Duffyfield. I've been volunteering in the community for about 15 years. I'm not a resident, but I have spent time there. Our church is really involved with J.T. Barber, and I help with the Boys and Girls Club, and I also now help with Duffyfield Phoenix Project. So I have a lot of interest in what happens in Duffyfield, and I would just agree with the statements that Antoinette and the others made, and just add that it's a community with spirit and history, and it would be bad, I think, to crush their spirit and not give them the opportunity to be involved with their own future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Rayner. What I don't understand...
Well, your address, please.
I own 2 or 3 lots. I just give one. One at 610 Master Court Drive that I own. But the catch to it is, what is the city, why the city don't put them on board to be sold that they have optionally? Because y'all have sent me some crazy letters about cleaning up stuff, but y'all don't clean yours. And the next thing is, tell me what is gonna help by sending a road from one side of the place to another side. What would it help? Can anybody tell me what would it help? Because if you know you got kids out there that's running around, then one accident and get hurt because you put a road there, I think it'll be the city's fault. The city should be sued for that. Do we have the money to pay for this? Do we have it? Do y'all have the money to pay for this? Because they're telling you now, eliminate it immediately. The road should not go that way immediately. I don't like to play chicken and scrap game. If you're gonna do something, let's do it immediately. Where you got where the road going, cut it off. Be done with it. because it's not helping the community. Only thing I see it gonna help is that I can come there later and buy a lot and put me some houses up beside the city, and I can make me some money off that road. Who is y'all trying to help? The community or somebody to get rich? Who's you trying to help? That's what I want to know. Because if you wasn't trying to get rich, you would get rid of that road immediately and go ahead and build a park where it be somewhere for these kids to go that can be outstanding like they're going to do in the city of Jacksonville. But y'all just want to figure out how can we make money. That's the root of all evil. Don't care because you don't live there. Probably haven't been through there 3 or 4 times. It don't make sense. Then the next thing I want to talk about is changing the name. Why would you want to change the name to J.T. Barber? Well, if you change the name to J.T. Barber, all the people that live in the community will like that because of J.T. Barber. That's a lie. That's something to help y'all to make it get changed. Leave it at 3rd Avenue. It's been there for years. Even when I couldn't hardly walk down there, and when I got past there, I had to go around the other way, past 3rd Avenue, let it stay the same. Y'all the one that caused the conflict of everything that's been done in the city of New Bern. First of all, you passed a bill when you told me that I couldn't add dirt to my driveway to make it higher, but you could turn around and add it to yourself to make it real big and cause the flood the gym. And that's why the gym flooded. So what you gonna do, build a big roll up there so it won't flood too? Dude, we just wasting the money. Wasting a whole lot of money. The city manager do it too. He know what I'm talking about. I ain't the first time after I've been down here. I've been boycotted 1 or 2 times here. Getting contracts in the city of New Bern. When I was on the board at the time, I had some big problem with it. But as a people, we cannot be scared. It's nothing going to be changed. Say it immediately. We drop it immediately. Just cut it off and say it don't need to go to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Oh, thank you.
Johnny Sampson Jr., 1038 Sampson Street. I'm very concerned about what is going on with our community. And I haven't just gotten concerned. I've been concerned all my life. I remember when downtown was just about to go out of business. So some of the citizens came together and went around the other communities, such as New Bern, went down South Carolina, went down and looked at some of the places down in South Carolina to get an idea how some of the other citizens were living. I've been living in Duffield all my life. I've been working in Duffield ever since I've been able to work. As a teenager, I was working to trying to help fix Duffield up. It was hard to get anyone concerned about Duffield. And now we're looking at the plans that they have that I really didn't know that much about it. I wasn't invited to any of the planning meetings. I did get to 1 or 2 that was over there in our area, but they had so many plans, people that's got discussed it, I basically got the plans, some of the plans still on the shelf. And they were going to do so much for New Bern. And we can look at downtown now. Downtown is really building up. They made plans for their area, but we haven't even been called in to make decisions how we want our area to look. how we gonna raise our kids to be good citizens when we can't offer them anything. Most of our kids now don't have sometime a place to go. The parents is in jail, and the kids get put out of school. So all they can do is run the street, do things that are unlawful. So the power structure to put them in jail. And who do you think paying for this? All the citizens paying for it. A lot of citizens don't realize how much money it costs us not to have a place for our kids to go, not have a place for our kids to even play a sport. Standard White, I remember when they first built Standard White. And I remember when they was going to do rework to it to help keep it from flooding. And they put about 6 big pipes from Standard White back of Standard White, going all the way out to the river. And we tried our best to get the officers that put pipes all the way through all the way through where Duffield is, Lockville, and drain that property. I bet you I've been to so many meetings down here and talked to them about trying to get this flooding area straightened out. And now, we didn't want to invest the city money. Now the state gonna give you some money, federal government gonna give you some money. Now they're gonna leave us out if we are not even in the plan. If there's ever been a time that we need to begin at ground level and build a foundation for our communities now. And if we don't have anywhere for our kids to play in, where are they going? They're in the streets. A lot of them get put out of school. In fact, I had a grandson. He's only 6 years old, and he was put out of school. Now, if he didn't have no family, where is he going at? He loves sports, he loves all kinds of sports, so you have to keep these kids busy. You just can't lock them up and leave them. So we're down here tonight. I'm so glad to see so many people here, both citizens. These citizens here tonight ain't no black. That's black. It's citizens here tonight, black and white. We all in this thing together. And we got a lot of smart people in New Bern if we want to work together. And we can do anything we want to do if we work together. But if we try to pull something over somebody's eyes, people already had to struggle during this storm. This is the worst storm I've ever seen in my lifetime. And everybody just about suffered. And there was been a time that New Bern need to come together with the community and build a strong community for our children. And then we can be a saving taxpayer money. But as long as we keep this system like it is, put the kids in jail, let them stay in there all their life, and we pay for them, we paying the citizen money for these people. Citizens, that's why they holler so much about taxes. They got to take care of the prisoners. They got to take care of young people going to jail and staying all their life. They did just change the law a little while ago. They're going to drop the age back so they won't put so many in prison because they ain't got nowhere to go. But we need this center as a starting point, as a foundation for our community. Pick this center up so we can have games for everybody. We're in this thing together. It's not black and white in it, but it's all of us in it. And if we work together, we can get it done. But if we try to pull a fast one, we're going to be in trouble. Thank you, dear mother.
Thank you. Very well. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Roger Bellamy. I'm from 3204 York Court in New Bern. I might not be a citizen of Duffield, but I'm just like an Italian who relates to Italian town in New York. I am a DOAS, descendant of American slavery. That's who I am. I have a couple of questions. The policies that you was talking about in Duffield redevelopment, they all are sound and good. But my question is, how is that going to help the community economically? I did not see nothing policy-wise up on this board that helped the community economically. And we all know, if we cut all the other BS out of it, we all know if it do not help a community economically, it don't mean nothing. It means that on Monday morning, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna be down at social service looking for help. But if you can tell me how all these amenities and upcoming is gonna help my community, since everybody calls it a community, right now we're not a community, we're a neighborhood. A neighborhood is a place where you eat and sleep. A community, you gotta have an economic base, and we don't. And every policy I seen you list on that board help away. You put policies in to make it hard for the people that live in the community to keep the land. You call it blighted land and blighted land, and you put policies in that tuck away. So if you could explain how this development, which is good, but it's a lot of stuff missed out. We have to be able to gain some of the benefits of what's going on. We have to. If the community is not going to be able to gain any of the benefits, so who is it benefit? Who is it going to benefit? And I heard you say up there that if the land is not taken care of, we're taking it, or you can't put trailers up there, you can't do this, you can't do that. The income level of our community, even if you have a college degree, the wealth is about $1,100 or $11,000 a year. The wealth for black people with a college degree is about $11,000 a year. The wealth of white people that's non-grad wealth is $75,000 a year. Now, the reason that should tell you right now, education is not the key, but it is part of the problem that can help it out. It's not the do-all. It's building wealth. It's economics. So whenever you put a plan in place, especially when you talk about, just like I said, that's my community, whether I live there or not. Whenever you put a plan in place, you need to tell me how that is going to benefit me. I ain't speaking for nobody else, but me, how's that going to benefit me economically? If you cannot tell me how that's going to benefit me economically when you put a plan in place, that don't mean nothing to me. That don't mean nothing to me as a black descendant of American slaves. I'm not a minority. I don't even know what a minority is. Is that a one-eyed person? A humpback? I'm not a minority. I'm a black person, a descendant of American slavery. That's who I am. So when you deal with the part, especially when you want to talk about my neighborhood, you tell me how that's going to benefit me economically. And then we can work from there on out. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Isaiah Daniels. I live at 1119 Raleigh Street. I also have the privilege of serving as Associate Minister at Union Missionary Baptist Church in the Duffield community. What has, I guess, stated an interest in me is this idea of building a road through the park that's alongside Stanley White. That concerns because as I listen to a lot of the parishioners that attend Union Baptist, as well as a lot of other people who are lifelong citizens, I guess the idea, the outrage is we haven't even know what's going to happen with Stanley White. And then now I'm talking about running to connect a road, especially when there's other options to connect it. And I understand, from listening to the C&I plan, reading the C&I plan and other things, we want to go back to a time when Duffy Field was the height and there was a lot of commercial and everything going on. But sometimes I think, trying to reach way back into the past instead of living into the present may be not such of a good thing. So I would urge that this committee that, you would just postpone this vote. Let's hold off on it. I know there's good things, transportation, other things, but let's postpone this. Let's see, what's going to happen with Stanley White, and then after that, let's go forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Johnson, 716 Bern Street. I'm a local pastor here in the community, and I've served this community for 39 years. And I've been very much involved with the Duffield community. I was one of the founders of the Duffield Phoenix Project, which made up of concerned citizens that want to do something to restore the voice, the dignity, and the pride to the Duffield community. When, to look at your plan, I don't have any major problems with it. I feel that it is a draft. It is not ready to be voted upon as the final product. Because when you look at it, the Duffield community residents haven't yet had an opportunity to sit down with you for you to get to know them and their concerns about this plan and their community. We want you to know that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, people gave their lives for the Stanley White Center and the whole area. We are standing on the shoulder of great trailblazers, people that love this community, love Duffield, and many of those individuals, they are gone. And it would be a disgrace to their the labor of love to see, for one thing, a road that is cut through the Duffield, the Stanley White, and to cut out the Stanley White Center and Henderson Park. It's a wound. Have you been hurt? When something is cut through your soul, you're gonna cry. You're gonna feel it. And when I see a sense that a road is coming, that's hurt me as a person, because what affects me also affects the people that lives within the community. So my concern is that you take this plan, this draft, and restudy it, and invite the community to voice their concerns about what they like, what they dislike, and what they want about this plan. For many years, we have been told what we need without being at the table saying, this is what we need, this is what we want for our community. So I prayerfully urge you to do what is good, what is right, what is just, and for the betterment for not only the Duffield community, but for the whole city. Whatever you decide to do, it will affect the entire city. Thank you.
We thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Best, 845 Highway 55 West, New Bern. I am a member of the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Aldermen established the Redevelopment Commission. I was for the Redevelopment Commission because I felt that it was about time. There's been so many plans given, and nothing has been done with the plans, so I thought it was about time that the Redevelopment Commission can take some stance and come to the aid of the black communities. Our black communities have been overlooked for years, and I felt that it is time for some beautification and some revitalization to our communities. Now, I knew that at some point in time that I was going to become in opposition of the Redevelopment Commission, and this is one of those times because I feel that within this plan before you tonight, I have great concerns about the extension of 3rd Avenue out to Main Street. I see no relevance there. If you stand in front of the Stanley White Rec Center, on the right side of that building, there's Chapman Street. Chapman Street has been the entranceway, the exits out of the Stanley White Rec Center for years. That street extends out to Main Street. That street is there and is utilized, and it's been utilized over the years to serve Stanley White Rec Center. So I don't see a need to put 3rd Avenue extension on the other side of Stanley White, which is going to run through the heart of that parcel. And I'm asking you, Planning and Zoning Board, tonight, that if you could take this plan, put it in the garage for right now and park it, give the city time and give yourself time to go back and do some studying, because, and the reason why I'm asking you to park it is because at the last public Board of Aldermen meeting, we had representatives from FEMA, we had engineers there, and they gave us some information stating that there potentially, possibly, may be some soil issues with that parcel where Stanley White is currently located. If those findings come back from those engineers that there is some soil issues, I know Mr. Ruggieri said tonight within his presentation that by no means will this plan interfere with the rebuilding of Stanley White. But I'm looking at it from a perspective of it may, because if there's some soil issues there where Stanley White is currently located, then we may have to shift that building to another portion of that parcel. So by that road being extended through there, that's going to create some problems. I see that as problems. Now, by no means do I want to be in opposition of the Redevelopment Commission, because I think it's a vital tool and resource that is going to come to the aid of our community, and I'm going to say our black communities, which is desperately needed. But, Jeff, Mr. Ruggieri, I want to ask you one question before I take my seat tonight. If the Planning and Zoning Board, if you desire to adopt this plan tonight, this plan will then go to the Board of Aldermen. The Board of Aldermen, if they adopt the plan, then will it be etched in stone that there will be no room for revisions to the plan in case we get the findings back from the engineer that we have a problem here where Stanley White is located right now? We got to shift it to another section of that parcel. So there will be would there be room for revisions?
The language itself states that it's not going to interfere with the redevelopment of Stanley White. So there will be nothing, there will be no Third Ave extension until there's resolution to Stanley White.
Okay, so can you put that a little bit in layman's terms so that we all can understand exactly what you just said? Please, and speak it to the mic, because I don't think, I'm sitting back there and I'm really not being able to hear a lot of it.
Me?
Yes, you too.
Oh, wow, all right. Well, I'm just looking at the timetable, right? So there's a timeline that's required by state statute to put into the redevelopment plan. The Third Avenue extension is not even scheduled to even begin for 3 years.
Okay.
So that's one. My answer to your question was that the policy itself, how can I do it this way? Oh man. Anyways, the policy itself states that the Third Avenue extension will not interfere. It should be right up front.
Right, I get that.
Yeah, not interfere with the rebuilding of Stanley White. So
okay.
If there's no resolution to Stanley White, then Third Avenue cannot be built. That's the language specifically right there. So if the Board of Aldermen does approve the plan, it becomes, the plan that we're working on, and there's no resolution to Stanley White, then Third Avenue cannot even be entertained.
Okay.
That
All
makes
right.
sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Martin. I live in Pembroke, 1804 Chestnut Avenue. I've been in New Bern all my life. Haven't been away from New Bern over 2 weeks at a time. And I know where Third Avenue is. I've been down there many times. Come through there and go over to Dufferfield to play baseball and cow pasture. Stanley White was a cow pasture too. He played baseball out there with Stanley White. It's always been a low, swampy area, all the way down Cedar Street.
Could you please get closer to the microphone?
All the way down to.
Thank you.
All the way down to West Street it was swampy, and Stanley White was building a trash pile in a dump, which all the way down to Frank Paolo's store down there on Cedar Street. Come down to Stanley White, that was a trash dump. Dump trash in there. And all the way down Cedar Street, that was a swampy area. It's still swampy, because grows cypress trees in there. But bringing the road through Stanley White is not going to help anything. It's going to hinder the area where Stanley White is. And that we don't need that. We need to build it up. And from Stanley White on up to Broad Street, on up to the hospital, that's a swampy area. Where the hospital is was in a prison yard, and it was swampy. I almost lost the hospital because it was sinking in the ground. It's built up on concrete pilings, poured in tubes, 3 foot in diameter, filled with concrete. And all that was all swampy. Still is swampy, all the way through Washington Park over there, Washington Street. Where those houses over there where J.T. Barber is, all that was a prison yard. And it's swampy, still swampy. And to build that road through there is not going to take care of anything. It's already there. You got to stop, take a right, come out to Cedar Street and go to Stanley White. That's the best way to go. Going behind Stanley White is not going to help anything. It's going to hinder everything. It's going to mess up the park back there, mess up the baseball field, and then go through there and hit those houses over there. You're going to have to tear them houses down, come out there and stop. Still going to put us in trouble. Not going to do anything. You got to raise up the Stanley White yard, raise up the Stanley White building. Same way they're building this new hotel out on on 17. See how they raised that building up, put it on pallets? All of that was swamp. It's swamp, all the way down to Coleman Ford. Swampy land, was swamp land, farmland, but was swampy. All that side of this road is swampy. But it had to be built up to take away the swamp. All the way to Walmart, it was swampy. They built it up, cut the trees down and build it up. But you can do the same thing to Stanley White, build it up and raise it up. But the street's not gonna help anything. It's gonna affect the kids going through there, a safety hazard to cause the kids to be involved in cars and so accidents. A lot of children come through there. I've been in New Bern a long time, real long time. And I seen it. And I used to come from Pembroke to play ball over there with my brothers and friends over there. We came over, we won the games, but we had to run out of Dufffield because we won. And we came through there, but we had good times over there. But we just got to look at it a little bit longer, a little bit better, and see what's better for the whole community. Because we need it, and the kids need a place to play. And I'm praying hard for you that you do the right thing. Because if you don't do it right, it's going to be a hindrance. It's going to be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jamal Wallace, Chairman of the Greater Duffield Residents Council. I reside at 1601 Apartment B as in boy, Hazel Avenue. And I have been summoned tonight to basically put a bow on everything and reiterate a lot of the points that's been made tonight. I think you have a good understanding of how the residents feel. Mr. Black, through our conversation, I promise you that we will be here and we're here.
Thank you.
And this is what political and community engagement is about.
I agree.
I'm glad to see everyone that took time out of their schedule to come make this happen. This is a very important issue and something that we need to get to the bottom of as quickly as possible. This plan is all about the revitalization and the redevelopment of the Duffield community. This effort means having a good understanding of resident needs and empowering residents to lead and take roles in projects that they want to see. This creates revitalization that is sustainable and continuously supported and ongoing through the residents of the community. Everyone has the right, or should have the right, to determine what their community looks like and deserves to have their voices heard when speaking about the community in which they live. The key to success of the redevelopment plan and the commission is resident buy-in and partnership. Key, foremost, and most important. This is an opportunity to change the repeated cycle of distrust throughout our local history. An opportunity for unity and trust to be built between Duffield and the city of New Bern, trust that has not been present for many, many years. This plan is just as it is marked, a draft. And it should be looked at as a draft. There's always room for improvement and growth. As people have said tonight, there's plenty of good things in the plan, a lot of which we need to find a way to push forward. The resource center, we need. It's a must. The health center, we need even more. So we definitely don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We want to push the things forward that are good forward and deal with these things that are not good and decent in the eyes of the community, which the people that reside in this community. Hear a lot of talk about what people have to say outside. Yeah, they have a stake too, but I think the greatest stake is with the people that are sitting in this room and the people who live in that community. Talk to them first. The professionals on the Redevelopment Commission are great. I have a brother on there. He's great. Does he live there today? No. You should have done your due diligence in the very beginning and spoke with the residents that live there. The residents that all of this pertains to. They are the professionals. They are what should count. Get their standpoint first and then consult the professionals. So I say that to say, pump the brakes on this. What's the rush? We have at least 45 days. Put it in the parking garage. Put it in the tunnel, wherever you want to put it, until we can do it right. It's about doing right. And not about lining anybody's pockets or any of this foolishness. So I say to you again, take what these residents have came out and said tonight. Take it to heart. They got jobs just like I do. But they thought it serious enough to come in and give their input and let you know how they felt. And please don't let that be in vain. Okay? Take your time with this and let's do it right. Go back to the drawing board and engage the community, what you should have done to begin with. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address this board in opposition to the plan? If so, please. Having seen none, now the conversation comes back to the board. But first, I would like to address the audience about the Planning and Zoning Board and the Redevelopment Commission. According to the statute, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the Redevelopment Commission designed the plan. The plan comes before us for approval. This Planning and Zoning Board had nothing to do with the actual plans within the draft that was brought before you. We approved the borders as per statute, and now it's before the Planning and Zoning Board to implement the plan, and reject the plan, or to continue it. And we can make recommendations to the plan. But we did not construct the plan that came to us for review. We did not design the plan, this Planning and Zoning Board. Is that essentially correct, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Now I would like to return it to the board for further discussion. Any members of the board have any comments?
I have a question, some clarification. We're talking about this 45 days. What does that mean? If it doesn't get voted on within 45 days, what happens?
It goes to the Board of Aldermen.
Yeah, we go.
Without a recommendation.
Yeah, without a recommendation. Okay.
I have a question about that. Is it possible that the plan could be removed from consideration to allow more time for everybody to work together?
We're on a 45-day clock.
Can that be changed?
No.
No.
When did the clock start?
Either tonight or at the latest, tonight. At the earliest, when you receive your packet with the plan in it.
So when does the 45 days actually start? Tonight?
I'm saying tonight.
Okay.
So that means
Because
you
if
got
it
your
didn't start
packets, it
tonight, we
would've-
got the packet. We got this part nearly 2 weeks ago.
Correct. It would be 46 days to your next meeting if it was when you got your packet.
Whoops.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, there's no guidance, and the meeting is a perfectly fine set time to say.
So then we have to make some decision on the 7th of January.
Correct. Yeah, that's the language in the state statute says shall. It's a shall language.
Well, what's the plan? Are you going to meet with the community? Do you plan to meet between now and then, or?
I have a meeting with the next redevelopment commission meetings next Wednesday, so we'll.
You hash that
Some
out?
of them are here, so this will be the topic of the meeting. I'm not the redevelopment commission.
No, I understand.
Hasn't there been plans for the past 3 to 5 years of work in that area, unofficial? I know there's been talk of it.
Oh, sure. I mean, essentially this builds off of the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative redevelopment plan. So that was an 18-month public engagement process.
Yeah, I thought they had meetings at that time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Teresa Lee's here can speak to the hundreds of hours put into meetings and public engagement. So it builds off of that, correct. And before that, there was the Gateway Renaissance Plan. It was a little less focused on land use changes, but more on appearance changes, types of things. Yes.
I think what I've heard from the community is since 2000, there have been now 5 plans for Duffy Field. The only one that came from Duffy Field itself was in 2001, if I'm correct. Is that correct? Does anybody know? I believe the Greater Duffyfield Residents Association had something to do with it. Is that correct, Jamara?
Yes, ma'am. And to be quite honest, the man that was there before I got there, that's right. The whole thing would definitely be Mr. Bernard George. He could probably speak to the formulation of that better. But the Duffyfield Strategic Plan was the first of its kind, and that was fashioned, I believe, 2000, correct, Bernard? In the year 2000. And since that point, there's been a series of the Gateway Revitalization Plan, as well as the Choice Neighborhoods Plan, of which I think a lot of us in this room have all settled on 3. But as you know, most of they sit on the shelf. And I hear that a lot of this has come from those plans. And I just want to say I didn't hear anything in those plans about Chapman Street becoming a cul-de-sac, Sutton's Alley, what we call Dead Man's Curve, being cut out, or a road through Stanley White. I think the commission would have been better served if they hewed closer to the plans that were already developed and went with some of the stronger things that were asked for in those plans. But to get off base and start building roads and cul-de-sacs and so forth, one-way streets, I don't know where that came from. But I don't recall it being a part of any plan that I supported.
Okay. But from what I've been told, when I've talked to residents of Duffyfield, 4 of those 5 plans were done predominantly by people out of Duffyfield. They did not live in Duffyfield. This is a plan, I think, that needs to rely on the residents of Duffyfield to give lots and lots of input. So I would ask for several things. The first is that the Redevelopment Commission work with the Duffyfield community and its residents. First, to form an advisory committee that will advise the Redevelopment Commission, and it will be nothing but residents of Duffyfield. The other thing I would like to see happen is there be several meetings between now and the 7th of January so that residents of Duffyfield have a chance to understand what is in this plan and to voice their opinion about it. The last thing I would ask is that you look into finding an alternative way to go into Duffyfield and connect Broad Street with Main. Knowing that there is large opposition to going through the Stanley White and Henderson Park area, Miller Street, for example, would be one way. I know it is way more expensive, but there's bound to be another way that you could make the neighborhood happy and still achieve your goal. So I would ask you to look at that.
Do any other members of the board wish to make further comment?
So what I understand that I hear mostly is they don't want this Main Street going through there, and they don't want a one-way street.
They do not want 3rd Street extended to Main Street.
Okay. And they don't
And
want
one
that
of the reasons why 3rd Street is being looked at is because it has a traffic light on Broad Street.
Okay.
And that would give them very easy access to Interstate 42 when 70 is deemed an interstate.
Do they know any of those connections?
One of the problems also, from my understanding, is that public safety would be improved because the roads are going to be wider and whatnot to get fire trucks there. There's a lot of old wooden homes in there, and there's a safety concern that way. There's a concern for getting ambulances in there as well.
I've been back in there. There are some very
These are
small
all
streets.
legitimate reasons, but they have to be given to the community, explained to the community.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that,
Here's my question, because I'm still harping on that 45 days, Jeff. Is there, if the Board of Aldermen approved this, the way it sits, is there a room down the line to amend it, so we wouldn't have to have the community pressed to get all their information in the next month?
It's a good question. The statute doesn't, it really just contemplates almost starting the process over, the amendment process. And it particularly gets difficult if property starts to change hands and things start to get implemented within the plan, then it gets more difficult to change it. Yeah, it's a whole section in the statute on how, what you have to do in order to change it. So that's a question that I would have to kick up to the state, and our representatives at the School of Government who's been helping us with the legalities of this, to get the answer to that one. I'll do that.
Jeff, you mentioned something that the 3rd Street extension is something that is years off at this point.
Correct.
And so there would be time to make...
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, part of the plan itself, you're required to do a timeline of the improvements that you, or if the changes in the plan, so that's in the plan itself, it's more towards the rear. The 3rd Ave extension currently sits 3 years out from adoption before it begins. That can change 10 years. You know, the redevelopment of the 3rd focus area starts after the extension of 3rd Avenue, so they are linked in that sense, that it becomes an economic destination in the community to provide an area for economic growth and economic development internal to the community, and not just living off of whatever's available on Broad Street and anywhere else in the community, but provides a specific area of a large enough mass where you can do some big things and really create some economic opportunities in the community.
Let me just add this. If the community need more time, and we need more time because we haven't had a chance to review the plan, what is the holdup? What's the problem? Why can't we just go ahead and take a vote?
And just bring it up again in the next meeting,
Mm-hmm.
which will still be within the 745 days.
Well, then, let me make a motion that we postpone a decision on this until the January 7th.
Let the language be continued,
Continued?
Continue.
That we continue this until the January 7th meeting.
Correct.
I will second that, but I'd like to add, I have to tell you, confess that I'm not as familiar with the area as some of us are. So if someone would like to volunteer to take me around so I can actually see what's going on, I would love that, if you could.
Sonny?
Ann will do it.
I'm the
Sonny,
Duffy
Ann
Field
took-
tour guide. I will get some community leaders from Duffy Field to go with
Just let
us.
me know between now and then.
I'll be happy to take any of the planning and zoning board that wants to go.
I'd like to attend.
Let's
Okay.
just all line up and we'll go.
Okay. Just
Uh,
come up with a day and let me know.
Okay.
At this point, I would like to have a motion, which Ann may, I'm trying to make it more official.
I'll second Ann's motion.
Okay. Having heard a motion to continue the decision on the redevelopment plan till January, we have a motion, we have it seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion so carries unanimously. At this point, we come to the next item of agenda, which is adjournment. All those in favor, would somebody like to introduce a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is it seconded?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say no. Thank you.
Jeff?